City News is brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers, Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.
Good evening, Rotorua. Tonight on City News. The Rotorua District Council agrees to defer a number of scheduled projects as part of immediate action to reduce debt. Lakeside organisers are gearing up for another exciting free concert at the Village Greens, and the Chiefs lose their first pre-season game against the Queensland Reds. Rotorua District Council has agreed to defer a number of scheduled projects as part of immediate action to reduce debt levels. The deferred projects have a total value of approximately $5.4 million and were all scheduled for completion in the current 2013-14 year. Projects on hold are reported to be the Lakefront redevelopment, Blue Bass upgrade. Mayor Steve Chadwick says deferring the capital projects was the toughest decision the new council has had to make. Mrs Chadwick emphasised that the council's decision was at this stage to only defer a number of capital projects and that none of them had been cancelled outright. This year's Lakeside organisers are finalising plans and gearing up for another exciting concert. Lakeside trustee Ian Edwards says Frankie Stevens came up with this year's tongue-in-cheek theme.
Yeah, we're really excited. We wanted something different, and we went to Frankie Stevens and said, look, we want you to do a different job for us, and he came back after consultation with one or two of his mates with the bald, the blind and the beautiful. And guess which one John Rolls was? Yep. So Frankie's definitely putting his hand up to be the bald, and Eddie and John. And then around that we position all the young ones. And we've got some wonderful talent that's coming for it. You'll have a very memorable night, I can assure you of that.
Now, speaking of young ones, Monty, you're obviously the organiser of the event. Yep. We've got some local talent as well.
Yes, certainly that's been a tradition that the event has presented to our audience over the years. And if you go back, Elizabeth Marbley, back in I think in the very early 2000s, and then not long after that, Hayley Westerner came through here. So yeah, Lakeside has a proud tradition. So Rotorua has talent, definitely. We've got 3 performers who have been auditioned, and yeah, they'll be something to see. That's for certain.
And the Opportunity Daytime Concerts present 3 tenors and a soprano in the latest national tour starting next month. The concert features the New Zealand 3 tenors singing popular arias and songs. Of the 5 performers, 3 are of Polynesian descent and are up and coming on the opera scene. 3 tenors and a soprano is on Tuesday the 18th of March. For more information, visit daytimeconcerts.co.nz. In sport tonight, the Chiefs have lost their first pre-season hit-out against the Queensland Reds on Friday night, losing 31-20 at Toowoomba Sports Ground. The Reds went out to an early lead, which they held onto after heading into the halftime break ahead 24-8. Chiefs coach Wayne Smith says it took a while to get going, but was important to give as many of the players a run as possible. On Friday, the Chiefs play their second warm-up match against the Blues at the International Stadium. The Blues have also lost their first pre-season match 33-12 to the Waratahs. The Chiefs versus the Blues is on here at the International Stadium this Friday. Gates open at 5 p.m. To your weather update. Tonight will be fine with light winds and an overnight low of 13. For tomorrow, Tuesday, long fine spells with a chance of a shower, light winds and a high of 23, a low of 12. And the outlook for Wednesday, fine spells, however some afternoon showers with westerlies, a high of 23 and a low of 11. And the marine weather for Tuesday, variable 5 knots becoming northerly 10 knots for a time in the afternoon, with waves less than half a metre, mainly fine with isolated afternoon and evening showers. Remember, for program listings or to upload your videos, check out our website, tvrotorua.co.nz. You can also see updates on our TV Rotorua Facebook page. Coming up after the break, we visit Plunket to find out about their upcoming Blue Bear Day, and Alan Solomon talks with Rotorua Cricket's development manager Dave Richardson about new initiatives to get young people interested in the game.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster if it strikes Rotorua? If not, the Bay of Plenty Regional Council are holding Living with Risk sessions for the community, and today I'm going to be speaking with Regional Planner Martin Butler, who will explain more. Hi Martin, appreciate your time today. Now here in Rotorua in the Bay of Plenty we're susceptible to natural disasters like, the Edgecombe earthquake and Manatau and obviously Cyclone Bola way back in the 80s. So obviously these Living at Risk sessions are very important for the community.
That's right, yes, we're trying to get in ahead of these disasters and get our planning in place so that people aren't exposed to those sorts of hazards when they happen. And it's for that reason that we're holding these community sessions. We're inviting people to come and tell us what level of risk that they can cope with in those situations, and that will in turn feed into the planning that the District Council does, and that affects where people live and where they carry out their jobs and so on.
So what sort of things will you mainly be talking about, and is it the Bay of Plenty Regional Council that are hosting it?
It's the Regional Council because we're dealing with the natural hazards part of the regional policy statement. The policy that we're dealing with is related to the assessment of risk, and so it applies to all the natural hazards, whether it's the earthquakes or volcanoes or geothermal flooding.
Let's not hope it's a volcano.
Well, they don't happen so often, but they do come with a level of risk, so they're in the equation.
So how do you assess those levels?
We've got, when hazard events like that happen, they have consequences, and so the consequences can be at various levels, and we combine those consequences with the likelihood of the event happening, and together those two things come up with risk. And we've got, what we're wanting to find out is the different levels of risk people can live with, so that we've got acceptable risk, which we don't need to manage, right up to intolerable risk, which is really just, we can't live with it. So we've got to change the situation to reduce that risk.
So obviously you're in collaboration with the City Council here in Rotorua. How important is that relationship? Because obviously, you need to have those close ties.
We work very closely with them, and on various levels. I'm in the policy area, but across all of our council we work together in civil defence and emergency management. All of us are involved in putting in works in place that can reduce the consequences when hazards happen. I'm thinking of flood banks, for example, stop banks on rivers. But it's also important to know just where these things are going to happen, and some of them you can put in works to protect against them, but others it's more important to just stay clear of those areas altogether. Or it may be that it's how you do what you do that's going to reduce the consequences.
If there's someone at home watching this now, how do they get hold of you to want to come along to these sessions, and whereabouts are they being held?
We've got an 0800 number, 0800 884 880, and ask for Marie. She's keeping a list of everybody who registers for that, and then she'll tell people where the community session is being held. The one in Rotorua is this Wednesday from 4 till 6 p.m, but they'll need to contact Marie to find out the exact location of where it is.
Are you guys in collaboration with other regional councils across the country? Because I'm assuming that the recent events in Christchurch is, it's spurred people on to get things sorted.
The regional councils, natural hazard specialists, all meet together periodically, a couple of times a year. Some councils have got policy that takes this acceptable risk approach. others are keeping a close eye on what we're doing and maybe wanting to learn from how we do it, and if we get it right, putting it into their own regional policy statements.
Now, recently we caught up with Pauline Hitchcock from the council, who's the Rotorua Emergency Services Coordinator, or the Emergency Coordinator. Now, she mentioned that 52% of Rotorua residents are prepared for a disaster. So, would you imagine, or was one of your goals for these sessions, is to get that number up, a little bit higher?
We're always wanting people to take responsibility for their own safety in these situations, in the hopeful event that they don't happen. But being prepared individually is very important, and having their own survival kit and a plan for the family to know what to do when it happens is very important.
So what's the long-term goal here for you guys at the Regional Council?
Risk reduction is what we're after. We're trying to reduce the risk when these natural hazard events happen. We don't want the sorts of outcomes that Christchurch had to suffer, for example, in their earthquakes and even now in their recent flooding. So that by reducing the risk, in our case under the Resource Management Act, it's the planning that can affect that, but there are lots of other ways that the risk can be reduced as well.
All right, Martin, we're just about out of time, but just that 0800 number again for those viewers who missed it the first time.
It's 0800 884 880 and ask for Marie.
All right, good stuff. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to City News. Well, as you all know, Christchurch is really struggling. They've had many earthquakes there and they're all trying to rebuild their homes. Auckland as well has got some issues with building their homes up there. And we want to try and clarify some of the issues around insurance. We're joined now by an expert in that field and a quantity surveyor, Rex Peterson. Hello, Rex.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us in the Rotorua studio today. So, first of all, let's hear a little bit about you and what your job is.
I work with a company called TRQ, and they're a quantity surveying company. And as a quantity surveying company, our role is to work with people these days with the change in legislation under insurance. So what's happened with insurance issues is people used to have replacement insurance. It was great, you didn't have to worry about it, just if something went wrong with your home, the insurance companies fixed it. Since the change in the world, since the Christchurch earthquakes, what happens now is people need to choose a fixed sum. So what that means is they have to pick a number to insure their house for. That's actually a lot more difficult than people think, because they sort of have a bit of a thought around saying, oh, is that something to do with what my house is worth on the market to sell? No, it's not. We often use the analogy to say to people, if you've got a house in Ponsonby and it's a wonderful two-bedroom villa in Ponsonby, and if you have the same villa in Tauranui, the selling price is going to be substantially different. But the truth is the rebuilding costs are going to be roughly the same. So when we're looking at these things, we're trying to talk to people about what does it cost to clear your site, what does it cost to redesign the home, to get all the new permits, to actually get a new building established on the site, and how the whole process works for people, and how they can properly work out a value today for what the building should be to rebuild it if you have the misfortune to lose the property in the future.
And so it's not just for people who have been affected by the Christchurch earthquake, it's for everybody in New Zealand, because the whole landscape of insurance has changed, is that right?
That's totally correct. And I think it's possibly a good thing for New Zealanders to actually appreciate what the value of their asset is. Because lots of us, the biggest asset that we are in is our home. And so you suddenly go, okay, what actually is my home? Now, have I invested into lots of expensive bathrooms? Have I redone the driveway and got a nice big concrete driveway there? And when you've done these processes, you suddenly go, there's a lot of money invested in houses in New Zealand. And so one of the things people try to understand is, how does that calculate out to be a value to rebuild the home, should you have the misfortune to do it?
So where we go to learn that kind of information, that's kind of what you're about, isn't it?
It is. What people get given options. The insurance companies have actually been very, very good from the point of view of saying, here, when we send you your renewal notice, what you should do is talk to a professional or try to use some other options that they provide. when you use some of the other options, they really don't give you the information you need to actually work out how much your house is to rebuild. If I talk to most people and say to them, now what do you use to build a house? How do you work out that value? They might say to you, oh, I'm going to work it on a square meterage basis. Okay? So you say, oh, a house costs X amount of dollars a square metre to rebuild it. Well, not every house is the same, and a square meterage rate really doesn't account for an awful lot of things. It doesn't allow for removing a debris from the site. Well, I'd use a good example we had here in Rotorua itself the other day. We went into this lovely home, and it had beautiful, it's an older home, and it's got beautiful tongue and groove floors. It's still got porcelain door handles on the doors. It's just a beautiful home. And the owners of it said, I want this home back. I don't just want to have a replacement house, I want this house, because that's why I bought it. And you go, I can appreciate that. So the price of that is not just a square metre rate, it's about saying, how much will it cost to really, really replace all those things to the same way it is now? And that's what quantity surveys do.
So tell us about some of the grey areas where you did mention that sometimes you don't get the full story.
If you don't get the full story, we're referring to how we calculate the house. We talk about that a lot when we say, if you have gone onto the insurance websites or the bank's websites, they often refer you to a calculator. The calculator on there, which is, it's a starting point, it's certainly not good, because when you look at it and start trying to look at your own home and saying, oh, it says on here, in some of the cases, do you have retaining walls? None, some, a lot. If anybody could tell me what some, none, a lot is, it makes a difference. And this matters to the customer because they go, in the insurance policy, they'll have a defined amount for retaining walls. So let's say they go, oh, my insurance policy says I've got $20,000 worth of retaining walls to be covered. How much does a retaining wall cost? Without working it out, you've got no idea.
So if people really want the true cost of their home, how can they get in touch with you first of all?
Best way to really do is go onto the websites. Most people have got the internet and just go trq.co.nz. So trq.co.nz and you'll find us. We have our phone numbers, we have a website that has all the answers to every question you ever have. We're not here to do high pressure sales. What we do want people to do is recognise that that asset that they own needs to be insured properly and don't take a shortcut.
Yeah, don't take a shortcut.
Not worth it.
Absolutely not. Well, thank you very much for your time and also for your information and wisdom and sharing it. And it's not, it's not just about businesses for you, it's about helping people out.
It is.
So it's good that we can help our community out with that information. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.
Kia ora.
Cookbook by local author Alicia Wiley was launched recently, which promises to help support charities by donating proceeds from the book's sales. Wayne Douglas went along to the launch to find out more.
Well, first of all, congratulations on a really good project that's sort of come to fruition now. So the obvious story is to go back to the beginning. How and why did the cookbook come about?
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. The book actually came about, it started about 2 years ago, and how it came about was that I needed to make a little bit of a house change actually, and to improve my house, and I made that change, and I found that it made a significant difference just by eating plant-based whole foods. And from there, it also made another difference, and that was that we became more compassionate for food and the environment. We found that by making certain food choices, we could actually be more considerate to the things that we care about most, which is animals and the environment.
So it's been quite a journey for you in a way, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been. It's been really interesting. We didn't start off eating healthy whole foods to begin with, and the transition has been really easy and enjoyable, and you'll see in the book it really can be a way of life.
Now, you've got a book launch happening here, of course, at the well-known Vitro, so how did that come about as well?
Well, it's a perfect location. Vitro, Jenny from Vitro very kindly allowed me to come in and post the book launch, and it's a fantastic place because the recipes in the book use whole food ingredients, and it shows a great place to come and get the ingredients. Like I say, the everyday ingredients you can get in the petro.
Now, it's a very classy and colourful looking cookbook, so a little bit about the logistics of putting it together, because it would have been a major task.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's probably why it took 2 years. Probably getting the right message through was what took the longest. Getting the recipes together is easy when you love and you're passionate about food. But writing is also a little bit of a story. It's got positive affirmations throughout, and a focus on recipes that are good for you. So in terms of the design it myself and compiled it, and photography and everything, really just snacks of food that we've taken a lot of time while we were on holiday. So it's taken a while, because I suppose we wanted to make sure that whatever we did to make a difference, we had to do it well.
One of the other aspects of the book launch here today, and I think it's very gratifying to know that you're not sort of grabbing it and taking the money and run, as it were. You pardon the pun, but basically you've got charities in mind, and quite a number of the dollars, if you can put it that way, go to charities. A little bit about the backgrounding of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for every book sold, we make a $10 donation. So that $10 donation goes to the charity of choice to by the customer that buys the book. So it could be SAFE, Soil and Health New Zealand, East Friends Animal Society, or the Institute for Responsible Technology. And the great thing about it is that we don't want to just do a recipe wheel. We want to do a book that could actually make a difference for the charities that we're most passionate about. That's our way of doing it.
And of course, the title itself of the book, tell the viewers at home a little bit about how you came about that.
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. The Life is Great cookbook came about only probably about 6 months ago, really, because we're stumbling forward. I don't want to brand it like it's just a cookbook or it's a diet book, because it's not a diet book. And it's not just a cookbook, it's really about life. Because if we think about life, life is everything. Life is everything to do from the soil, the foods we eat, the animals lives that we need to be compassionate about, and the environment, which is very much a part of our life. And that's how it came about. So life is great when we are compassionate and considerate to all those things.
And towards one another is a spin-off of that as well, so yeah.
So what's that?
And compassionate towards one another and relating to one another is a spin-off from that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, the content of the book, I've been through it, and as we're speaking, we're probably seeing some shots of the pages, and it's looking very colourful. There's a little something for everybody in there.
That's what we're hoping for, and that's why it took quite a while. And when I say we too, it may have my name on it, but my husband Tony Bland has very much been involved in the book as well. We make these recipes every day. We live by these recipes, and not just a compilation. Yeah.
An obvious question, and again, thanks for your time today, is where to from here?
Yeah, absolutely. From here, this is the first series of books that we're doing. So the Life is Great cookbook is the first one, and then from here we're doing Life is Great for dogs, and then we're doing Life is Great cookbook for children.
And I forgot to mention also, there's an e-book in there somewhere. A little bit about that for the viewer.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a free e-book. So everyone that buys the book gets a free e-book that they can download. And you can download that to read that on their iPad, Kindle, or Kobo. It's our way of saying thank you for supporting the charity. So we give $10 to the charity, we give a free e-book. And like I say, it's got positive messages throughout. And you can buy a poster as well. There's some posters that are available. And for every poster sold, we make a donation.
Well, congratulations again, and good luck for the future.
Thank you so much, Wayne.
And that was Wayne Douglas talking with cookbook author Alicia Wiley. And if you have any news to share with us, give the station a call on 07 3488 984 or email news@tv.alert.co.nz. And to watch the show again or to catch up on City News, go to our website tv.alert.co.nz and click on Latest News. Thanks for watching tonight. From all the team at City News, for Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
City News was brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers, Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.